My name is Valerie Vincent. I'm a lifelong resident of Dothan. I've lived here and I know a lot of you. My husband is Jeremy and we have a business here, and I have 2 children, Caitlyn, who's in the back, and she is in 7th grade and she's 12 years old. And then my son Brooks had a soccer game and was getting some food and they were going to try to make it, and he is in 5th grade. He's 10 years old. And I just, before I forget to say it, thank you, Dr. Snyder, for coming, Mr. Snyder and Jason. Dr. Snyder was coming and sharing with these people tonight what means so much to us. I just really appreciate that. And if there's 2 things that I forget to say tonight is, one, this program has just been a great blessing in our life. I've never been a outwardly spiritual person, but for me this has been a trip that only God could have planned for us to go down. So I'm grateful to Mr. Snyder and everybody for that, and for our therapist. The second thing that I want to say to you is, I know you've seen a lot of information tonight and hopefully you'll have a lot of questions, but what was the deciding factor for me is that everybody that I kept talking to wasn't sending just one child through. They had sent multiple children through, and they were, you know, I'm the chit-chatty girl of the office, and I love to listen to people's stories, and we're all trying to figure out a way it's time, it's energy, it's money, it's a big commitment on everybody's part. But they weren't just sending one child through. How do you send one child and leave one child sitting over here? They're sending multiple children through, and that to me was a testament that you would do something the first time, but if the results weren't good enough, you just wouldn't do it again. And that is the success story, and that tells the results themselves. But Caitlyn, I'll start with her first. She's my simpler child, and she kind of got drug along for this homeschool ride that we did last year, and then we found the therapy and started with Brooks. And only as a result of Brooks did I kind of began to question Caitlyn. She had 20/20 vision, and I knew this because I had her checked twice. When she was in 1st grade, she originally complained of the board getting blurry, couldn't see things well, things would get blurry. A friend of mine and a friend of Ashley's that's here, Shay, originally checked her the first go-around, and 20/20 vision, health-wise, everything looked good. So in 4th grade, we had some more complaints. I had her checked again by another optometrist here. Shay was no longer here. And still, 20/20, everything looked good. You know, health-wise, we were great. So I just, you know, what do you tell your children? I mean, I knew I did what I needed to do. So I was like, oh, you'll be fine. You know, you'll be fine. Go on. So, well, we thought, we'll just get the small little screening test of the, I think, did you do maybe 4 or 5 tests on her? She failed, she only passed 1. And I thought, okay, so we've got to do, so we just signed her up for the next, the bigger set of testing. And again, she failed a slew of those. She had blurred vision way before she should have blurred vision. And she also had tunnel vision, which we've been talking about a lot tonight. So she did not have to do the 2 weeks in Birmingham. She just brought the light home to watch. Her light was again specified for her, and she would watch it once a day or twice? Once a day for 20 minutes. And we went back for Brooks's checkup, and it had been 6 days. And they were like, well, let's recheck her. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is a waste of time. I mean, nothing has happened in 6 days. But instantly, I mean, within 6 days, her vision field had opened up. On one side, she had total big blind spot, couldn't see anything. Both blind spots were shrunk down to normal now. So it was amazing. She has continued since then with the vision therapist. Her progress has been a little bit slower because she's back in regular school, and she is in upper school now, and she can't miss so much school. But we're still continuing to do our homework at home. Her headaches have lessened greatly, and just her overall perception of things around her has improved. We can't wait. She's had foot problems, but she is a tennis player, and a few times she's been able to go hit the ball, and she's like, man, I'm hitting the ball really good. So we're hoping that was one of her issues. But again, she was my simpler child, somebody that had made good grades. We had maybe a little ADD every now and then, but nothing what I thought was as major as what was going on. But what had been interesting is that I talked with Mr. Snyder, and in about 5th grade, we began to notice she'd always made A's easy. And I thank goodness, because my other child took the majority of my time. And in 5th grade, she began to get a little more ADD, and we made some B's, and you know, we'd throw in a C every now and then. And that being the explanation for that was that some of these children, as the material gets harder, then they're not able to process it as much or read for the length of time that they need to be able to, and focus for the amount of time that they need to be able to. So it doesn't necessarily for her problems would have, and I feel certain they would have just continued to snowball, and by the time she's in high school and college, then we are maybe struggling in this perfectly A student in elementary school. Well, we get to high school and we start to, you know, go down, or middle school. And so I'm very thankful that we did not have to go down that road. Now on to Brooks, my my child that I love so much and is a ball of fire, and never is there a dull moment when he is around, and I'm so just blessed to have him. But he's aged me tremendously. Meltdowns checklist, sensory issues checklist, chewing on our shirt till our shirts just wet down, and every shirt we had would be chewed up. We finally just started taking them off when we got home from school, so I wouldn't have to keep going to the uniform store on a bi-weekly basis and buying new shirts. On your question, are you ADD, ADHD, Asperger's? To me, it didn't matter. That was a checklist, and those were diagnoses. And since he's been little, we were diagnosed as ADHD. That's where we started. We kind of in kindergarten thought about holding him back. I struggled day in, but his teacher kept saying, yeah, he'll be fine. He'll mature. He'll be fine. And a mom knows. You just know something's not right. So we go on to 1st grade. I cried continuously because everything was such a struggle for him, for both of us really. And so at the end of 1st grade, we went on to 2nd grade. We've been on Adderall, and thankful to Adderall that it did help him sit still, but we just still had so many more issues, and it just kept snowballing on us. I mean, at the end of 2nd grade, I said, okay, let's go get something, let's go check somewhere else. So we drove up to Atlanta. We spent several days in Atlanta. We had the whole educational diagnostic workup done. I kept saying, he won't make eye contact with you. You're talking to him, and he's looking over here. You know, it didn't make sense. It didn't add up. And I tell this to the therapist, and yet again, we do all this testing, ADHD. I come home with a list of papers to give to the school, to give to the teachers, one for me to keep myself, you know, techniques to work on, and this kind of stuff that I've been reading every book I could possibly get how can I help my child? You know, am I not disciplining him right? What is going on? Things rules, just simple rules that every other child should get on the 1st, maybe the 2nd go around. You know, it would take Brooks 5 or 10 if he got it, and still then he wasn't understanding it. His just whole perception of the world around him and what was going on, it was just like he didn't get it, like we were in a fuzzball all the time. It's very sad, very sad. And let me not lose my focus here. So we finished 2nd grade, we go get the diagnostics testing done. I wasn't really happy with that. So in 3rd grade, we start back. I decided to start working with Dr. Ashley and Kelly, who most of y'all know here in this room, who have been huge proponents of autism here in this town. We do the diet, we do the blood testing, we do all the work that we should be doing. The diet did help. We went on the diet. It's hard, it's very hard, but we did it, we made it. Helped with his hyperactivity a lot, but still in the classroom, no benefits. So we went back on the medicine. We had tried to come off. That was at the end of 2nd grade. We tried to come off the medicine. So then back in 3rd grade, we started back on the medicine. But in 3rd grade, on a weekly basis, I'd have every teacher going, did you give him his medicine today? They'd ask him. I mean, how sad. In the classroom, they'd ask him, did you take your medicine today? Now, I never had hid our medicine from friends. Everybody knew we had a little blue pill to take. That was the one that worked best for us. Everything else, we'd cry constantly. But everybody knew that we took a pill. We weren't trying to hide it, but still he would get bombarded with that at school. Are you taking your medicine? He was trying. He was giving them their best 7 hours of the day. Yet every night we would come home and we'd have another 2-3 hours of homework. This was homework that it would take most kids 25, 45 minutes to do. We'd cry for 45 minutes just before we got started. I knew something wasn't right. And poor little Caitlyn back there, she's laughing, but she had to live through it all. And I kid everybody, like, you have to be my perfect child, because, you know, we struggle so much with this one. So all this is just, you get the picture, because you're there and you do it. At the end of 3rd grade, at my rope's end, I said, we're homeschooling. If I'm going to do 4 hours of homework a night, let's just go one-on-one. Let's see if this helps. So I go out over the summer, I read, I study, I find 2 great retired teachers that are going to come help me. They're going to tutor in my home. Took him off of his medicines, and he was able, you know, to do school. But I'm so thankful that we chose to do that, because it allowed me to really see how far behind he was. You know, he was making A's, B's, and C's at a college preparatory school. So by all standards, you know, but we were struggling horribly, and just our daily life was miserable. And so we're homeschooling. A friend of a friend in Birmingham tells me, you know, there's something I've heard about, a neighbor. It was just a neighbor, not even she knows well. I said, you go knock down that neighbor, you find her wherever she is, and you get me that information. So I come home with sensorylearning.com, sensorylearning.com, the best thing I ever went to. And again, you know, it leads you from one to the next, and you can click on the location. There was Birmingham. Called, made an appointment immediately. This was about a year ago. In October, we began. We went in, let me get to my right page here. We went in for testing with Dr. Snyder and Mr. Snyder, and then Mr. Snyder will meet with you and explain to you the details of your testing. I did not know at that point if I wanted to cry because there was so much wrong with us, or if I wanted to jump up and down. He had a lot of the same things we've all been talking about. The tunnel vision, couldn't converge, couldn't diverge. That's why he couldn't copy. Out of 10 spelling words, he'd misspell 9 of them. I mean, we maybe could get 1 copied correctly. Math, our numbers, crisscrossing, he knew how to do it if you wrote it for him, but he couldn't get it from the brain to the paper. And one-on-one, we thought, we can teach him this. We can back up. We can teach this. Even in, you know, almost 6 months of homeschooling, he still had not improved at all. Well, my mom went with me to the meeting, and he tells me this list of problems and explains every quirkiness, the toe tipping, why, the perceptual thing, why we couldn't, you know, what was going on with my child. Super sensitive hearing, like he heard way more than he should have. He could tell you who was tapping on the pencil with the desk when he was taking a test, which would look like ADD, you know, and all of these things. And I came out with my mom, and I said, okay, that was a lot wrong. There's a lot wrong with him. She's like, yeah. And I said, but you know, did I just hear him correctly that they see these problems every day, and they're fixing children, they're helping children that have these same exact problems? She's like, yeah, you know, and my mom's a nurse, and so she was, you know, over there. We were both taking notes, and I mean, my heart just gets excited because I can just still remember driving home from Birmingham, calling in-laws, grandmoms. I mean, like, just relief that other than Dr. Ashley, who Dr. Ashley had told me, there's a little something more than ADHD. I'm not sure what it is, and he doesn't have enough of those check marks to be Asperger's, but we've got some issues here. But other than him, nobody had ever gotten my child or understood what I went through. And they did. And since then, we watched the light. Immediately, we saw improvement. Funny thing, Caitlyn we were eating cheese dip while we're still up there watching the light in Birmingham. Brooks had always double dipped. It was a major household dispute around our house. And so Caitlyn goes, Brooks, we were at a confined little table, so we didn't want everybody to have lots of plates. And she goes, Brooks, we're going to have 1 bowl, but could you please not double dip? And he looks at her and he goes, okay. Okay. And she looks at me, she goes, Mom, it's working. I mean, it was just like hope in our eyes. And us too, though we did have some setbacks. You know, one day we were living in Birmingham, and he cried all day. He cried he missed the dog. He cried he missed his dad. You know, just things that never even, I was like, this is not him. And we went to P.F. Chang's. He cried the entire meal, but if you've been to P.F. Chang's, it's loud, so if we got by with it. But I thought, at a minimum, at least it was doing something. I just knew that it was doing something. Sometimes we did feel like we went backwards. You know, it was more, he was taking in more than he ever had, and he's just had to learn how to process all of that. And he has, brilliantly. He's making great strides, and he's still doing it. Music for him, in every school performance he'd ever been in, he just, either he moved his mouth, he finally learned to move his mouth because he didn't want to get in trouble. But one time at kindergarten, he was in graduation, and he all but took his shirt off, like over his head, and he couldn't figure out how to get his arms back in the shirt. And I thought, oh my gosh, the shirt's just coming off and going on the floor. But he hated music. He couldn't sing. He couldn't learn the lyrics. On the way home from Birmingham, we listened to music the whole way. You can't listen to headphones, but we just listened to it in the radio. And Caitlyn will attest to this, but we had to listen to the most redneck country songs that he loved them. He loved them, and he learned the lyrics to all of them. And we'd sit at home and we'd watch our light therapy, and that's what we did to pass the time. We watched our box for 18 days, twice a day, and we'd listen to country music. And he learned lyrics like that. Not only that, but he could clap to the beat. Now that's not something, you know, that's not a big deal, and you think most people could, but he couldn't. And I thought, you know, for him to go to not loving music to loving music like this, that's great. And that, you know, so that's just, not everybody sees the same results, but there's just so many positive results that you do see. He's not having any more bedwetting. He doesn't chew on his clothes anymore, so which is, you know, saves us a good bit of money. And academically, I did not bring our it's called a visiograph, is that correct, with us. It's more the academic side testing, the reading comprehension. The glasses track how you read, how many words per minute you read. When we originally started with Snyder, we were finishing 3rd grade. Well, we were starting for 4th grade, October, 4th grade. And he was on a 1st grade, 2nd month level. That's where we were. By the time, just alone from watching the light, he had come up a year and 6 months. He was on the 2nd grade, 8th month level. At our last VT check, which was about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, everything was above grade level, a 7th grade or above. His overall coefficient was off the charts. His words per minute that he reads has more than doubled. And his comprehension has gone from nothing, because every time he would take the test, we'd have to retake the test just to get a score. And now Miss Josie, our therapist who we use, tells me that consistently he makes 100% on his comprehension when he does it. Socially, he's matured at least probably 2 years, but only in a matter of, you know, 6 months. So that just doesn't happen on its own. For those parents who keep saying one of these days it's going to click with your child, it's going to click with your child, it wasn't with mine. And now he's finally, I feel like he's caught up and he's exceeding my expectations. Our family and friends have seen just great improvements. Everybody's loved Brooks because he's just a likable kind of kid, but you just couldn't tolerate him for long periods of time. And so I have a friend, Paige Todd, y'all may know him, and they took him out fishing. He went on an all-day fishing trip, and both him and his brothers, you know, 8 grown men in Brooks, and they all called me and said how great he did, and they just raved, and he's welcome back anytime he wants to come. And that just melts my heart, because he loves to fish and he loves to be one of the guys, but he would just drive everybody crazy. So I'm so glad now that he can just go hang out with his dad and do what little boys should be able to do with their dads. I have met so many people up there. You can tell I'm the social butterfly, and I like to hear people's stories, and I like to share mine, but I just feel that why reinvent the wheel, you know? So if you know, just sometimes you got to take a leap of faith, and it's not easy. It's time consuming, but it's so worth the time and the energy that this program takes. I met one family, and I just wanted to share this with you. Her name is Brooke, and she has 2 kids. Well, she has 3 children, but Nate and Odessa. Odessa's been through the program, and she's now finished. She's graduated, and Nate is still in the program. But we were sitting out there, and both of her children have made great improvements, and she has a little boy who they're one way or another are going to figure out how to send him through the program too. But she said, you know, I've just decided that normal, and you may have heard this, but what is normal? We're always talking about let's be normal. And she said, you know, normal's just a setting on a washing machine. And it was the greatest day, because we are closer to normal than we've ever been, but Brooks gets to be Brooks. He's not on his Adderall anymore. He is not walking around like a comatose state or crying or side effects, ups and downs from the medicine. He just gets to be who he is, and I feel certain that by doing Snyder therapy that I've allowed him to be the best Brooks that he can be. And I just appreciate y'all all coming here tonight, and wish everybody the best of luck.